What's up, everybody? Happy Monday. Happy Monday to you. Welcome to the Monday Mindset Movement. I'm your friend, Robert Kennedy III, RK3. That's me, and welcome to 15 to 20 minutes of motivation, elevation, and inspiration designed to get you rocking and rolling through your week. OMG, we are getting ready to do this thing. Yes, Monday morning. My gosh. Are y'all ready? So glad that y'all are here. John's Real Estate Services. Glad to see you on Instagram. Rob Key, glad to see you on Instagram. Johnson, glad to see you on YouTube. Bill J, glad to see you on YouTube. So glad that y'all are in the place today. My gosh, we're getting ready to get moving here. So let me ask you this question. What on earth are you here to do? What are you put here to do? That's what we want to talk about. If you know what you're here to do, are you scared to do it? Are you scared to do that this morning? Do me a favor. You want to get connected with us, go to MondayMindsetMovement.com. If you want to know when we're going live, text the word go live, no spaces, go live to 240-55-STORY. Text go live, GOLIVE, to 240-557-8679. All right, we're getting ready to get moving this morning. Oh yeah, here we go. Yes. I'm dancing. I'm grooving this morning. What? Hey, y'all, listen, I'm so glad that you're here with us this morning on the Monday Mindset Movement. I'm so glad to be in the space and in the place with you. My gosh, what are we talking about this week? Well, here's the thing. A few weeks ago, I did a show on creativity. And if you want to go back to the YouTube channel, go to Robert Kennedy 3 on YouTube or RK3 TV on YouTube and look for a show entitled, what was the show? Oh, Awakening Your Inner Genius. I forgot. Awakening Your Inner Genius was the name of that show. Do me a favor, before we jump in, if you are in the comments, Nathalie Gregg, I see you. If you're in the comments, just type your name so I can just acknowledge you and holla and call you out. Hey, good to see you, Marianne. Thank you so much for being here. John's Real Estate Services, glad that you're here. Rob Key, glad that you're here. And who else do we have in the place? All right, good deal. So I want to point out this quote this morning. And it says, creativity is piercing the mundane to find the marvelous. I'll say that one more time. Creativity is piercing the mundane to find the marvelous. I'm going to do the show just a little bit differently this morning. As I mentioned, several weeks ago, we did a show called Awakening Your Inner Genius, and we were talking about creativity. And creativity is the core focus of one of my favorite books. I love this book. It was one, as I started my personal development journey, it was a book that I walked through and I did via audiobook. And I'm not a big audiobook fan, but I did this book via audiobook, and it's called War of Art: Break Through the Blocks and Win Your Inner Creative Battles by Stephen Pressfield. That's one of my foundational, fantastic books. And this morning, here's what I'd like to do. Instead of walking through some examples and stories, I want to walk through some quotes from this book. I just want to reflect on some of the quotes in this book because I believe some of them will free you. I believe some of them are going to set you free. Right? As we begin this week, some of us need some freedom. I believe some of us need some freedom because we're trapped in who we think we need to be that is acceptable. We show up every day in spaces and we wear masks and we do these things and we squish our creativity or our creative muscle because we think that's what's acceptable to the world. We think that's what's acceptable to everybody else. Yeah, some of us are going to say, no, that's not me. I don't even want you to defend yourself to anybody this morning. I want you to be honest with you and sit in your inner space and say, hey, how am I showing up? Am I showing up boldly? Am I showing up courageously? Am I showing up in a way that is fully authentic? Am I showing up in a way that is really the core of who I am? I was built to be a certain way. I was built with certain gifts and certain skills and certain talents. Am I showing up and honoring those things? So let's start with the first quote that I want to share with you this morning. Here it is. The quote from this book, and it says, if you find yourself asking yourself and your friends, am I really a writer? Am I really an artist? Chances are you are. What are you asking yourself? Am I this thing? The counterfeit innovator is wildly self-confident. The real one is scared to death. OMG, that's what I want to point out to you. We walk through life and we walk through these spaces and we see other people, and because they look confident, because they look like they've got it all together, because they look like they figured it all out, they found the secret, they have been put on to the secret sauce. We think that they've got their stuff together, and here we are still trying to figure it out. But there's this thing that's inside of us. There's this thing that we think about. There's this thing that shows up in our space all the time, and we shy away from doing it because it scares us. I remember I used to do this podcast called What's My Story, and I had William Hung on. I don't know if you remember the name William Hung, but William Hung tried out for American Idol several years back, more than a decade ago. And he was one of those people that Simon Cowell and the rest of the judges, they laughed at, they made fun of, and he sang, and he actually went viral because of his singing and his dancing. And it was because there were a lot of people that were laughing at it. But here's the thing that a lot of people don't understand, or here's what a lot of people don't recognize. And here's my takeaway from that. William Hung showed up in spaces that most of us are scared to. William Hung wasn't so concerned about what other people thought of him or his talent. He said, I'm going to show up in this space because it's scary. I'm going to show up in this space because most other people won't do it. I'm going to show up in this space because something from that space keeps pressing me and says that I need to show up there. And so this quote from the book, the counterfeit innovator is the one who is wildly self-confident, but the real innovator is scared to death. My gosh, I hope that freed somebody this morning. And I hope it freed you because you've been living with some fears or some things that you're scared to go ahead and do. And I want you to know that it's okay to be scared. It's okay to be afraid. And what I want you to do with that is be courageous and take a step forward and see how you can you can make a step forward, or how you can get 1% better, as James Clear says in his book Atomic Habits. Let's look at quote number 2. Quote number 2 says, fear is good. Like self-doubt, fear is an indicator. Fear tells us what we have to do. The more scared we are of a work or calling, the more sure we can be that we have to do it. My goodness, if you are somebody right now, who is dealing with a fear, or there's something in your brain that you've got to do, but you've been shying away, or you've been saying, I don't know if now is the time, or I don't know if I have the money, or I don't have all the resources, or I don't know if I'm ready. Listen, this week is your week. Today is your day. This moment is your moment. Right now is your now. What is it that you've got to do? What is it that you got to show up and get done? And you don't have to do it perfectly. You don't even have to do it right. You don't even have to do all of it. What is it that you need to get done this week? What is it that keeps bothering you? And here's the thing about when you're supposed to do something. When you are supposed to do something, when you're supposed to show up in a space, when you have a calling, that calling continues to show up and show up and show up and show up in your brain until you finally punch that calling in the face and squish it down in a box and tell it, I'm not going to pay attention to you anymore. And even then, you may still faintly hear that calling out to you from that box. But when you have a calling, when you've got a passion, when you've got something, no matter how scared you are of it, it keeps showing up in your space. Keep showing up in your space. That's quote number 2. Here's quote number 3. And here's quote, oh my gosh, I love this one. The artist committing himself to his calling has volunteered for hell, whether he knows it or not. He will be dining for the duration on a diet of isolation, rejection, self-doubt, despair, ridicule, contempt, and humiliation. Yeah. Right? A lot of us think that, okay, if we follow our calling, if we follow our gifting, if we follow what we're supposed to do, it's going to be hunky-dory, copacetic, all right. It's going to be easy street. That's just not the case. When you are called to something, when you've got something that you're supposed to do, when you have excellence, ask any artist, ask any athlete, when you want to be at the top of your game, you are calling for isolation. I think about Kobe Bryant, and you can scroll through as many interviews on YouTube as you want about Kobe Bryant. In almost every interview, you find and you hear something about him saying, my gosh, I had to show up at the gym 3 to 4 hours earlier than other people. And then when other people left the gym, I still stayed another 2 or 3 hours. A lonely existence, an isolated existence, because he felt called to be the best. He felt called to be his best. And so he did the isolated work. And quite often he had to sacrifice some things, and people, they made fun in some ways. But at the end of the day, they had to say that he was the best at his craft because he was willing to put up with the isolation. He was willing to put up with the despair, the ridicule, the contempt, the self-doubt even, because he was committed to his calling. D Collects, how you doing this morning? Good to see you. Jaquise Moore, thanks for joining. Erica Applewhite, hey, how you doing, my friend? Thank you for being here. So let's go to quote number 4 this morning. Quote number 4 says, fear doesn't go away. The warrior and the artist live by the same code of necessity, which dictates that the battle must be fought anew every day. Let me make this a little bit smaller so that the people on Instagram can see it even more clearly. All right. I want the people on Instagram to check this out more clearly. All right. Fear doesn't go away. The warrior and the artist live by the same code of necessity, which dictates that the battle must be fought anew every day. Mark Chambers, my friend, how you doing? I hope everything's going well with you. Victor Sandoval, good to see you this morning. So here's the deal. I could conquer a battle this morning. I could conquer a battle today. And still, I must fight that battle anew tomorrow. A lot of us want to find out, oh my gosh, when am I going to get past the fear? I have public speaking clients that come to me sometimes and say, hey, Robert, how do I get rid of the nervousness? How do I get rid of the anxiety when I speak, when I share my message? How do I get rid of the butterflies? And I say to them, our job isn't to get rid of the butterflies, it's to help them fly in formation. Those butterflies will be there. They'll continue to be there one way or another. We just have to figure out what to do with them. And we've got to embrace those butterflies. We've got to embrace that battle anew every day. The warrior and the artist live by the same code of necessity, which dictates that the battle must be fought anew every day. That's quote number 4. Do me a favor, if y'all are enjoying this morning, if you're finding value in what we're sharing, if you're finding some freedom this morning, do me a favor, go ahead and share this Monday Mindset Movement podcast with someone else. Let's look at number 5. Let's look at quote number 5, and let me make this Instagram ready as well. All right, let me make this a little bit bigger for my Instagram people. Okay, so this one says, the rule of thumb, the more important a call or action is to our soul's evolution, the more resistance we will feel towards pursuing it. The more important a call or action is to our soul's evolution, the more resistance we will feel towards pursuing it. Here's what I'm saying this morning. There's something that you got to do. There's something that you just have to do. There's something that is tugging at you. I've had several conversations with young adults, I would say. I'll call them that. Man, I'm at that stage where I'm calling people young adults. Right? Hey, young man, how you doing today? All right. So I've been having some conversations with some people in their 20s and maybe early 30s. And I recognize that most don't really have any idea of what they want to do in their lives. And that's okay. Because there are a lot of people in their 50s that don't have any idea what they want to do with their lives. The unsettling part of this for me is that many are scared to try. And our world is set up with our bills and all of the different things so that we feel trapped or we feel locked in, like I've got to just scramble, I've got to settle, I've got to grab something in order to survive. And the truth is, it's just young people. Let me ask you to raise your hand for a moment. How many of us can actually say that you boldly did what you really wanted to do in your life? How many of us can say that? So let me flip it, and I want to call you out, and I want to have you call yourself out this morning. I want you to type me in the chat if there's something bold that you know you need to do that you haven't done yet. Go ahead. If there's something bold that you know you haven't done that you need to do, go ahead and type me in the chat. And I want to come back to this quote because it says, the more important something is, the more important your calling is, the more important the action is that you need to take towards your soul's evolution, towards your growth, towards your calling, towards your place of fulfillment, towards the thing that you're supposed to do. The more resistance we will feel towards pursuing it, the more isolated you might feel, the more lonely you might feel, the more discarded you might feel, the more uncertain you might feel. All of these things are designed to get in your way, and they're also designed to test you so that you can become stronger as you push towards this idea or this goal or this calling. Yeah, somebody's saying you got to take the leap. Never settle. Always take the leap. Yeah, you got to take the leap. You got to jump. Got to jump. And I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity to bungee jump or to jump even off a diving board. As you go up that ladder towards the diving board, your heart starts to pound, especially when you first do it. Your heart begins to pound. and you feel your heart pumping out of your chest, and you climb up the ladder, and then you finally get to the diving board, and it pumps even harder, and then you start to walk towards the edge, towards the front of the diving board. And as you get to that edge and you look down over the water, that's the time where your heart is like boom, 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 pumping out of your chest, and you feel all of the anxieties and all of the stuff come together. And here it is. At that moment, there are two decisions that you can make. Well, actually three. I'll name them. Decision number one that you can make is go back. Decision number two that you can make is to stay right there and continue to deal with the anxiety. And decision number three that you can make is to jump. And only one of those decisions creates accomplishment. Only one of those decisions creates achievement. Only one of those decisions creates the desired result. And it's the decision that requires the most courage. But here's the thing about jumping. When you jump, you can't go back. You can't automatically suck yourself back up to the diving board. You can't automatically just retract yourself back to the ladder. Once you jump, you are in that next space. There's this great book by Mel Robbins. I don't know if you've ever had a chance to read it. It's called The 5-Second Rule. And it's a simple book. So simple in its conceptuality. Is that a word? It's a simple book, and it's called The 5-Second Rule. And all she says is, listen, anytime you have something big that you need to do, anytime you need to pull on courage to accomplish something, simply just do like the rocket ship and count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then do it. Man, I've done that in my life, and it's this revolutionary thing. Just get yourself in the habit of counting down and moving forward. Counting down and making the leap and making the jump. Listen, I like to leave you with at least one action every single week. So here's what I'd like for you to do this week. I want you to ask yourself a question, and I want you to write down the answer to it. And here's the question. What is the one thing that you think about, if not every day, at least 4 to 5 times a week? And then what are you going to do about it? All right, you don't have to perfectly describe it. If you're not sure what you think about all the time, I want you to think about this question then. What is it that attracts your attention regularly? What is it that attracts your attention regularly? Okay, I want you to write that down, and I want you to sit with yourself this week just a little bit so that you can free yourself from some of the cages that trap you. I want you to sit with yourself so that you can just start to mingle with your ideas. I want you to sit with yourself so that you can begin to think about what your calling is, or what's calling to you, so that you can then begin to do something active about it. All right? Listen, y'all, I hope that you have had a fantastic show today. I hope you've heard something. I hope one of these quotes from The War of Art by Steven Pressfield has resonated with you. I hope there's something that's caused freedom for you this week. Hey, listen, y'all, creativity is piercing the mundane to find the marvelous. Today is Monday. We want to shift your mindset to a place of growth, but it doesn't just start and stop on Monday. We want to encourage you to take your Monday mindset into tomorrow and the next day and the next day. Be curious, make a choice, move, start a movement, be a movement. Join me next week, Monday, for the Monday Mindset Movement at 8 a.m. on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn. Hey, y'all, I will see ya on the next Monday Mindset Movement. Peace.